Today on Anatomy of a Movie, we talk about the film adaptation, The Girl on the Train. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Anatomy of a Movie.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Popcorn Talk Network. Today on Anatomy of a Movie, we are dissecting The Girl on the Train, a very highly anticipated film adaptation starring Emily Blunt, directed by Taylor Tate. No, actually, it's Tate Taylor. Two names.
Either way, I mean, if it's a library, it would be Taylor Tate.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
If it's
Tate Taylor. I'm your host, Marisa Serafini. You can follow me on Twitter at SeraphiniTV. Joining me, I have...
Hi guys, first timer here, Briana Phipps. You can find me bphipps14, Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Jeffrey C. Graham. Thanks for tuning in. Guys, this is so much fun. This is our staff panel.
Yeah, this is.
All three of us actually work at the studio. It's funny, Bree and I probably work the most closely,
yeah.
and we never hosted together, so this is kind of fun. We got Zach in the booth, who's one of our engineers and producers, so
Yes.
let's kill it, y'all. Let's rep for the studio.
The Girl on a Train. Real quick overall thoughts. Brianna, let's start with you, being the new voice here.
I actually really did enjoy the film. I had like a lot of fun random moments when stuff would happen where I felt like I was just like, what? But I did think that there were a couple points that I wished it had moved a little faster. But I got the irony of like being on a train and waiting.
Okay.
So I got that part of it.
You kind of just blew my mind.
Really?
Maybe I like the movie more than I thought I did because I kind of had problems with the pacing. To be honest, the performances were fantastic. I really think Emily Blunt's portrayal of this alcoholic was one of the best performances we've seen all year, and I kind of hope she gets a couple award nominations for this.
I sure hope so, too.
I don't think she will because the movie isn't super well regarded, and a lot of the negativity that critics have been pointing out about the film I kind of agree with. That being said, I do want to praise the performances, and there were things I really liked about this movie. Overall, I kind of left it feeling so-so.
I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I actually started reading the book about a year ago before I knew it was going to be like big, and I actually ended up not finishing it only because I was going to a different location. I was changing states and stuff.
On a train?
Yeah.
If only.
No, I was on a plane more so. But I didn't, unfortunately, I couldn't finish the book. So like I kind of knew about it a while ago, and then I found out that it was being adapted into a film. I was like, shoot, I should have read it.
Well,
But watching it, and I went into this film not really knowing the story, but the premise, really. But I thoroughly enjoyed this film. It was a very well set up thriller, and it had all the tropes of being a thriller and a mystery kind of, and it exceeded my expectations and what I was wanting in this film. So, let's get into it. DreamWorks Pictures bought the rights to the film. Well, actually bought the rights to the novel, obviously written by Paula Hawkins, prior to the actual publication of it. So they were on this.
They were like, we're having
really
this
quick.
one.
We're like, did we know this is going to be successful? We're going to buy it. So, yeah. And they got Tate Taylor to be involved in this film because he directed The Help, which was another DreamWorks film, and so he had those relations already set up in play, and they got him involved, and then he met with Paula and Emily Blunt on the same day in London, and that's pretty much where the ball got rolling.
yeah, Tate Taylor, it makes sense as a directorial choice, not only because he had a relationship with the studio, but because The Help was also a novel. So I'm sure they thought, this director knows how to handle material from a different source, and The Help was great.
Yeah, The Help was such a good movie.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's a great book, too.
Yeah.
So, yes, Tate Taylor definitely has the experience of adapting and having a successful film afterwards. But, yeah, and so let's get into the writing of it. Actually, the screenplay was written by Aaron Cressida Wilson, but obviously adapted from the novel. And it was what Aaron Cressida says. Paula Hawkins says, it was basically handed over and everybody just got on with it. She tells Entertainment Weekly, I've never written for a film. I would have found it very difficult, but I wouldn't have felt confident about it. That's the reason why she didn't do the screenplay. But
It is a very, very different thing to write a book and then write a script. It just translates
is.
differently.
For sure.
I mean, you can have the concept, but like it really takes the skill set of screenwriters knowing how to properly adapt a story from a book to a screen.
Right.
And yeah, so that's where Aaron Cressida came in, and Paula also says, like, the character of Lisa Kudrow, who I think is only really mentioned in one line of the book, is not even really named, but it was because of Aaron and Taylor Tate Taylor. my goodness, these names. It was those two that actually turned Lisa Kudrow's character into a storytelling device that Paula Hawkins wouldn't have the skill to do.
Okay.
So.
It's interesting. You mentioned that not only was the book optioned by the studio before the book even came out, but I found out the first draft of the script of the movie was turned in the day the book came out. So not only had the book been optioned before, not only had the book been optioned by the studio before it even came out, but there was literally a draft of the movie that was turned into the studio the day the book came out.
How crazy would it be if you were like a person like reading the book along with reading the script at the same time and getting those firsthand, like, oh, this is what's different.
It makes me think of that scene in Devil Wears Prada where Anne Hathaway has to get the Harry Potter manuscripts for Meryl Streep's two kids. Like, you forget that there is a lot of hurdles and hoops that go through publication. So a lot of these stories have been established for a year or two before anyone else sees them. So I'm sure this was extremely top secret as all this stuff was happening.
Yeah, I was just amazed because like how successful they already knew this book was going to be.
Yeah.
And the fact that they can automatically turn it into a screenplay, like pretty much simultaneously as the book was getting published. That I mean, is a lot of foresight.
Those instincts, yeah. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but I bet whoever read the first draft of that was like, ooh, I see a Gone Girl here. And I know we're going to get into it, but I'm sure that was part of the reason that the option happened so quickly.
Yeah, and as we always know, that the book is generally different, most of the time better than the film. So we'll talk a little bit about the book. It's one of the, obviously, the quick bestsellers for Paula Hawkins. But the book actually debuted at #1 on the New York Times fiction bestseller list of 2015. So yes, this is a fairly newer book. And it spent 13 consecutive weeks at #1. That's ridiculous. 13 weeks up until April 2015. And so we'll talk a little bit about the book differences compared to the films. Detective Riley in the book was actually a man with a female sidekick, and where we see in the film Detective Riley is Allison Janney, who actually has a male sidekick. So they kind of married the two a little bit.
I like that.
Flipped it.
We were talking about like we're just like Allison Janney's everywhere.
She is.
She's everywhere.
Girl's working, so good for her. And another big thing is that the location of the book actually takes place in London, but they moved the location to New York and the story itself to New York.
I kind of feel like I would have liked to have seen this movie be in London.
I wonder if they were originally planning on it being in London, saying that Emily Blunt was originally part of the whole thing, because she is British.
Right.
So I wonder if that was originally going to be the plan and they changed it later on. I
don't know. I mean, like, New York is such an iconic cinematic city, and maybe they thought it'll appeal more to Americans if we put it in a domestic city, but I don't know. I kind of wonder if the movie might have tonally just worked more as a whole if it had been in London, because the movie did feel kind of British in a way. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the overall concept of riding a train, like, when you think New York, I think subway with train, underground.
Right.
I don't think overground. London, they also have the tube though, so I don't know.
I know what you mean. There's just something that seems so British about a train, yeah. And like even like the weather, it was kind of a gloomy, a lot of gray, and there was scenes with fog. It just I kind of almost felt like I was in London for some of it, but then like I was like, oh, I guess we're in New York. I don't think it was essential, but I would have been interested to see this movie would have looked like if they kept it in London.
Yeah, and Paula Hawkins even said she didn't really mind the move to London, or from London to New York, because she says this story's not really about the location. That's just the backdrop.
That's true.
It's really about the characters themselves. And she's like, she did mention in an interview that she thought that London was just like an imagination of her mind.
Oh.
Of Rachel's mind. It's really, you could take this story and move it to anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
It's just a backdrop, so.
True.
Not really a character in and of itself. And another thing is that Megan's confession that she never wanted a pregnancy in the first place is actually in the book. Whereas with the film we see, we'll get into the characters obviously, but Megan, we see in the film that she actually had her death of the baby from
before,
drowning in the bathtub.
So in the book, I'm confused.
So in the book, it's like alluded to the fact that Megan never wanted the baby, so it might have had an abortion in it.
Oh,
okay.
Therefore, she was deemed as a baby killer, quote unquote.
Huh.
And so therefore, like, missing baby. And people don't really know what happened to the
Interesting.
baby.
So in
But
this one, they just chose to make it the death of the child, meaning she doesn't want another one. Got it.
Yes. And then also in the book, Rachel and Scott actually sleep together and have sex together, and in the film they don't. So they purposely kept Rachel
I kept
chaste.
thinking that Rachel and Scott were going to, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I kept waiting for that scene to happen. So when it didn't, I was kind of like confused as to the whole thing because I thought that was going to happen at some point.
Well, actually, they did. I mean, this is later on in a rundown, which you guys can download and follow along with us. They actually did have 2 sex scenes scripted for the film, but they ended up cutting it out.
Oh.
So, yeah, I think it was actually Tate Taylor's decision to keep Rachel as chaste as possible. Like, she'll think about it, but she actually, it was good to not have her sleep with anybody.
I kind of almost would want her to, though, because I think that it would give more reason to his outrage of her lying.
Yeah. Yeah, there was something almost too innocent about their relationship that all of a sudden when that turn happened, it felt a little bit like, I don't feel like they know each other well enough or there's enough of a justification for all of this rage. And it would have been a little more interesting, I agree, Brie, if they had like some kind of encounter in the past. I don't know.
Yeah, so those are pretty much the biggest differences if you've read the book to watching the film, which unfortunately none of us have read the book here.
I plan to read the book now. So.
Yeah, eventually I'm going to read the book. My mom is going to send it to me in the mail. But yes, so we're going to really dissect the film itself, anatomy of a movie. So yeah, let's talk about the convoluted memories that we see in this film. We see the different perspectives, mostly from Rachel's disoriented, drunken perspective, and then like later on the storytelling in a non-linear way of other people actually telling her the real truth of what happened and her putting together the pieces. What did you think of how they conveyed them on screen?
I really liked what they did with that. I liked like that during the whole first part of the movie we have all these flashbacks to like her wonderful marriage and how she screwed it up, and it's not even like that intense until later, and then like even when she's remembering it the way that she's been told later, it's like gets so much more intense. Like, so we were kind of traveling through their life, and then all of a sudden having to go back through and re-travel through it the way it actually happened. I thought that was a really cool way to go about it.
Yeah, I think it worked. It definitely did remind me of Gone Girl. I saw this movie with my girlfriend, and we were saying it was almost a little disappointing that it was just like, oh, he told her this and she believed it. And of course, that's what happens.
I mean, but when you're so drunk, when you can't physically put together pieces in your mind, you have to just go with what
She
people
was
are telling
being,
you. Especially someone you trust as much as like your
of
husband.
course. She was, what's the word I'm looking for? She was being
She was being gaslighted.
Gaslighted, yeah. I was going to say
Gaslighted.
steamlit, which is not the term. So the gaslighting thing was interesting. I almost wondered if there's going to be like this, like she was being drugged or like more of a conspiracy. That might have made the movie a little too out there, but I think that's kind of what I liked about some of these marital infidelity thrillers is when it does get really, really extreme instead of just manipulating an alcoholic. I think that trope feels like something I've seen in like TV movies, whereas sometimes when I go to see a movie in theaters, I want something really stakesy.
But I think there's something to be said about just the innocence of taking advantage of someone when they're so low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably maybe plays more true to life,
Yeah.
but
I thought it was very interesting. I'm a big fan of nonlinear storytelling, especially if it's conveyed in a intelligent way. And I think they did it really smart because we, the audience, who aren't really familiar with the characters and just watching the film, we're learning a lot about the husband, Tom. When he first appears on the screen, he seems like a nice guy. And like we feel bad for him because Rachel is such a drunk. We're like, oh, this poor, seemingly nice man has to put up with this drunk. And then we later learn that he's actually an asshole. He's the one gaslighting her. It's like, oh, okay, there's that slow progression of realizing he's actually the bad guy and Rachel's actually good. I mean, like, we're always kind of rooting for Rachel throughout the whole film. We know she's the protagonist of the film. But I think it was really smart that the slow reveal of that Tom's bad along with the reveal of the twisted memories at the same time, I think was brilliantly married.
yeah, I did. I was surprised. Like, I will give it that. I was like, oh, yeah. And there was 4 or 5 moments in this movie where I was really pleasantly shocked by the plot. So there were definitely moments in this movie I loved.
Yeah, and let's talk about the twisted relationships. I was trying to just figure out everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Who's who, who's with who's sleeping with who, you know?
Everyone's like connected in some way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I generally like those stories too, but when you're learning about 3 individual women, now you're learning about 3 individual men. It is a lot of people to learn within an hour and 45-minute type of film, you know? So, and especially when 2 of the girls look so similar. You're like, who?
Yeah, it would have been... I almost could have seen casting Anna and Megan a little differently. First of all, can we just acknowledge that Haley Bentwell, is that her name?
Haley Bennett.
Looks so much like Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence,
This
yeah.
whole time I was like, is that Jennifer Lawrence?
Everyone thinks that, yes.
But yeah, I kind of sometimes had... First of all, I loved, too, that this movie was about 3 women. We never get that. So, like, that was awesome. And I think they were all pretty complex women and different. And I think casting them a little differently might have helped me distinguish them a bit. I guess it was good that Haley Bentwell looks so young. I think that was one thing that helped. But
I mean, they all had very different personalities too, so I actually didn't have an issue with it, even though like they were both blonde white women. But
right.
Just like Haley's portrayal of it, the character was just very like so numb to everything that like what's the other? Sorry, I'm blanking on Anna. Is so like strong and like in certain ways and like very outspoken. So it wasn't hard for me to differentiate between the 2 of them because they just were 2 completely different people.
Yeah. At first I thought they were maybe sisters or something.
And when she's at the house.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, that's believable. And then we learned that Megan's actually the nanny.
It is funny, though. There was just so much kind of incest between... like, when Rachel went to the doctor for therapy, I was just like, oh, God. I was like, this is just the layer, like, that's going to make everything so complicated.
And I love complicated stories because, you know, you're always trying to figure it out. I find that very interesting and entertaining. But also, you got to remember, like, a lot of people might not keep up with that.
Right.
A lot of people within like the hour and 45-minute time limit, people aren't gonna still realize who these people are.
Yeah. I wonder how audiences have been doing it. I did okay. Like the first third, I was a little bit like, but then it all became very clear to me once we were past that. So
I figured it out too eventually.
Yeah.
But it was just fun to see the twisted relationships, how each of them are related in some ways.
Yeah.
That. Now,
and how every man had
was the ex-husband of Rachel, who's stalking Anna, who is
the current wife,
the ex-employee of Megan, who's dating the shrink.
Right.
Who now Rachel has been seeing.
Right. I know. There was a lot.
No, it was a lot, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So what did you think of the big reveal at the end? We would now realize that Tom's been gaslighting Rachel. He's the one that actually killed Megan.
I was kind of suspecting from a point that maybe it was him. It was from when the phone didn't have a number, when it was an unlisted number. Mm-hmm. I started thinking then, I think he might actually be the one, and this might be this whole thing like he has with Megan. But I didn't see it coming that he was going to have been like messing with her mind and like creating all these fake scenarios of what really happened. That part really surprised me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of thought it was going to be the doctor who was really the bad guy at the end. And he ended up being kind of an asshole, but like I thought that was going to be the big reveal. And then, yeah, I was surprised. I thought it worked. Yeah, I think like tone is the one thing I kind of have problems with this movie. Like, I kind of wish it would have been a bit more, like, sinister or, like, I don't know. It kind of played out in a way that was very somber when we learned. But I still liked from a plot perspective, it very much surprised me.
I was very surprised, too, because I like the big reveals. And throughout the whole film, I was guessing who did it. Because there were some moments I thought maybe it was Rachel. Because, like, the way that built it up and her disconnected memories and her being drunk, like she's not the most reliable candidate.
Yeah, the only way I thought that it was her though was like that she thought it was Anna.
Yeah.
And that she killed her thinking it was Anna.
Oh, I see. In a stupor.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So there were different moments I was like guessing who it could have been. It's like if it's not Rachel, then it has to be someone who's also very very attached to everybody, would be Tom.
Yeah. So you suspected Tom?
I eventually suspected Tom, and I realized, I was like, it's probably not Rachel, because I don't think it'd be a very satisfying story if our protagonist was someone who was the actual killer.
Also, someone who was that drunk to, like, actually hide the body.
Yeah.
Like, drag it and cover it with leaves. Was a little unrealistic.
It's like, I wish I was that productive when I was drunk. My apartment would be clean after every single party I throw. One question I had about this, and now I'm forgetting what I was going to ask. It'll come to me. We can move on, and I think...
While you think of that, it was smart the way that they set it up, because we're still trying to figure it out. And when we find out when Rachel's head was hit and she's bleeding and whatnot, I was like, maybe she was in that physical tussle with
because there was a lot of blood.
with Megan. So like, maybe she did get drunk. A lot of people are angry drunks. They do things that they can't think of and remember the next day. It's like, good chances it could have been Rachel, and she doesn't remember it. But like, now we find out, due to the memories of everything coming back to her, that it was actually Tom that hit her. At one point, okay, if Tom hits her, what else is he capable of?
Right.
At one portion, I did think it was almost Anna.
Yeah.
I thought that she was going to find out about Tom and Megan, and then it was going to reveal. Like, the minute she found the phone, I was like, oh, she's going to find out, and then it's going to reveal that, like, she killed her, that she's known all this time. Like, I don't know. I thought that we were going to somehow go down that road.
I can see it. I mean, there was a lot of great red herrings. The other interesting thing was this red-haired guy she meets, like, on the train and sees on the train.
Oh, yeah, they got the hat.
He was in it, like, for the first half, and we didn't really see him again, unless I'm forgetting. So that kind of bummed me out. Like, I almost wish he would have factored in more, because I'm like, why did you show us him 3 times? Was it because I thought it was going to be him? Like, I was like, was this just
some random outsider?
We did get that answer when she went to the bar later, and she's like, why are you following me?
Yeah.
And whatnot. Didn't we find out that he was actually the guy who tried helping her when she was drunk in the tunnel?
And I guess that's why. Okay, yeah, I'm just remembering.
We did... And I think that's where they played up the drunkenness part really smart, because maybe when you are drunk, some people do get paranoid and feel like people are constantly watching you. Hence, there's all those shots of people just looking at her.
I've got one more quick story question while we're on story, if that's okay.
Sure.
The video that she shoots of herself that was potentially incriminating.
Yeah.
I was wondering when they were going to do something with it. Like, when was the cops going to find the video?
Exactly.
Did she post it online?
Was there a payoff with that, or was it just supposed to make us nervous?
I think it was just to make us nervous.
Okay.
I think it was to make us nervous, and apparently that's also in the book.
Yeah.
But that was more like in a different way slightly, but like, I think in the book it's a mental thought voiceover from Rachel, that specific line of what she would do to Anna and bash her head in and whatnot.
Oh, wow.
I think this could have worked better. Like, it would have been really interesting if in the last half hour, even if it's just one scene of like, well, now we have this video. I kind of wish we would have seen it come back. It bummed me out a bit. If the only purpose of that was to make a voiceover work on film, I kind of feel like that bums. Like, that was one example of a moment where I was like, I wish this would have paid off a bit more, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it may not have had a payoff, but it definitely had a setup. And I think that was another factor that made us believe that it was Rachel.
Right.
It could have been Rachel. If she's thinking it, maybe she did actually execute it.
Yeah, that's true.
I just wanted either the cops to find the video, or like the girl that was in the video to be like coming forward being like, well, this girl told me to kill this person.
Right.
Yeah. I was thinking like security cameras in that place. I was like, if it's on her cell phone and no one gets that content, it's somewhere on a security camera.
Even if it was just put that so that's
crazy.
The cops going to find her because they have that piece of footage and they want to like arrest her, and that's how they go to the house or something. Like, even something is connecting it like that.
Right, agreed.
Yeah. Let's talk about Emily Blunt, shall we? I love her.
I love her.
She's amazing. I've seen just about every single one of her films. Obviously, she plays Rachel, and she actually did a lot of research for playing someone who is as drunk as the character of Rachel. She watched a lot of Intervention. She watched all those.
Oh, nice.
But because she was also pregnant with her second child, this was all real acting. She didn't do method acting. She didn't actually drink. It was like she actually brought herself to that level of drunkenness every single day.
She did a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's a movie that I've not liked her in.
True.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. Even critics who didn't love this movie, everyone's praising her performance, which I'm glad about. And I've heard from actors that playing drunk is one of the hardest things as an actor, because like, you want to portray that you're not fully there, but it can so quickly get cartoonish. Mm-hmm. And I thought she played it so convincingly.
Because the proper way in acting class, what I was always told, the proper way to play drunk is to act like you're not drunk. Because that's what you do when you are drunk. You're trying to make people believe you're not.
Right.
And so when you're trying, and most people end up trying to be drunk, which makes it the cartoonish.
As an
over-the-top
actress,
thing.
Brie, what did you think of her portrayal, especially as someone who was drinking?
I thought she did a wonderful job. Even like the sad moments, like the little moment where she is so into the baby because she always wanted one, and the bottles are in her purse, and like her like being embarrassed at the same time as being obviously drunk. Like also the makeup was just great for it because it was not over the top, but it was just like the little bit of smeariness, the little bit of like dead eye. Like I thought she did a great job portraying that.
Me too.
I think she did great. She's great in every single movie. We've actually done a lot of anatomies with her in it, and she just.
I wish.
Yeah, I wish, definitely.
That was the one film that I was kind of nervous with her, and I still loved her.
Yeah.
No, but she's great. She can sing as well. She's very, very talented. She says that this was a part I never played before. Rachel is very toxic, physically and emotionally, and incredibly tortured, self-loathing sort of person, and I thought it was thrilling to have a protagonist that's a blackout drunk. So a combination of the personal challenge for me, and the idea of this unreliable narrator, which I think was cool. So yeah, she was definitely on board for this, and I think she did an amazing job.
It's definitely even a step further harder to play someone not only that's a drunk, but that is a stalker drunk.
Yeah.
And to make people feel sorry for you even though you're stalking someone.
Yeah, it was a stalker drunk, dangerous, mentally unstable drunk, but also an addictive drunk too, which has very scary qualities as well.
I'm calling it now. We're going to see a Golden Globe nomination for Emily Blunt. I don't think she'll get an Oscar nomination, but I feel like a lot of times the Golden Globes loves to champion.
But is Golden Globes one that have the comedy and the drama?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Golden Globes is both television.
I'm thinking of this like The Tourist, where like the movie maybe didn't do so well with critics, but the performances were loved.
Well, Emily Blunt actually won a Golden Globe for Gideon's Daughters. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. I just have a feeling we'll see a nomination at the Golden Globes for her, but we'll see. That's my prediction.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think she did a fantastic job for this, and this was like early on in her pregnancy, and it was actually one of her coworkers found out that she was pregnant.
Gosh, as someone who's pregnant, there's so much probably psychologically, like this movie's all about like babies dying and like stealing babies, and she's
or not
drinking.
being able to get pregnant.
Yeah. It must have been like kind of a psychologically torturing theme, like for her to be like dealing with like I'm pregnant, and this movie's all about like the horrors that can happen involving pregnancy. Like that's an interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely ironic. And it was Justin Theroux who found out that she was pregnant, because there was that motion when she's on the floor and she's running away from Tom's character, and they gave her the directions like, so you're in the sitting position, you just get up and run. She's like, I don't think I can do that. And then that's a fairly simple movement, and Justin Theroux put two and two together. She's like, she's probably pregnant.
Is she John Krasinski's wife?
Yeah, John.
Yeah.
Hollywood's favorite
I know,
couple.
they're adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, Theroux laughs like, you're not 80-year-old and you don't have arthritis, so you're either pregnant or you've gotten really lazy. So good for him for figuring that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was the only one on set that knew until eventually later. But
Till
that was during
child.
her first trimester, so it was still fairly early for her. Let's talk about Haley Bennett, who plays Megan Hipwell. She's on the up and up.
Yeah.
I love that you have in here that she was music and lyrics, because it's the very first thing I ever saw her in.
Yep.
I forgot about that movie. That's like Hugh Grant's a songwriter movie.
Yeah, she's like the ditzy like singer.
I thought she was also great. Pretty much all the performances in this movie I was really happy with. I think this isn't an easy role. It's a little like numb, and she kind of has to be cold.
Yeah, she was the least connective character for me.
Yeah.
To identify with, just because she's so numb to everything, and she just doesn't seem to have any cares with what happens at all.
Right. I was having a hard time, and this might sound bad, but I don't mean it to, but I was having a hard time connecting to Megan, or like finding her as a likable character.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she was the one who was killed, but like I didn't really like anything about her.
You're like, maybe it's good she got killed.
No. I'm not saying that. You said that.
I'm totally kidding.
But
well, I think that
she
might
was
be
hard to
why they
connect
killed
to.
her, is because they needed us to be on Emily Blunt's character's side,
Right.
and to have someone that wasn't necessarily likable. Like, you feel bad, but not enough to not like Emily Blunt if she did do it.
It was definitely the second half of this movie that got us on Team Haley a little more because we learned about all of the problems with her past. And as an actor, she had to make some very courageous, she had to shoot some courageous things for us to really feel for her.
She also was like the one person that did the most nudity in the
Exactly.
Yeah, she did. And yeah, she said she didn't really have a problem with that because it was more like the mental struggles of her character. But what I found interesting was actually because Haley Bennett was just in The Magnificent Seven, which is probably still on in theaters right now. She was filming down in Baton Rouge, and the costume designer for The Magnificent Seven knew Tate Taylor and recommended Haley Bennett for Megan back when they were filming Magnificent Seven. So the director met with Haley when they were filming Magnificent Seven down there in Baton Rouge, and like they had like a dinner and just talked about the film, and he's like, "Yep, this is Megan."
Wow.
So, and that's how she got casted, thanks to the costume designer of the Magnificent
See, people,
Seven.
it pays off to be friends with people even in low positions like costume
It's
designer.
like costume designers.
I'm just kidding, they're not
It's
low
connections.
positions.
It's who you know. Yes, let's talk about Rebecca Ferguson. I think she's an amazing actress. She's been in a lot of things as well. But her as Anna, the more maternal character of this film.
She's the one that in the beginning I was feeling really bad for. Even though I knew like that she was the mistress at one point, but I was feeling bad. And then throughout the movie, as it went on, I started feeling less bad for her. Like I started kind of like being like, like especially when she was like, I miss being the other woman. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was a moment I was like, oh, I was feeling bad for you, but like now that you're actually taking enjoyment that Rachel's kind of being tortured now.
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of like the, did you guys watch Desperate Housewives?
Yes, of course.
Like the Brie Vandekamp, like the, you know, like the really put together mom who seems put together, but then maybe is like kind of a bitch a little bit. I know that's not a good word probably for me to be using, but like has a cold
Brie
side.
was my favorite housewife.
Oh, she's great. Oh my
I love
gosh. I mean, all of them. That show is so good. But
so good.
I think I actually did think of Rosamund Pike. I thought of her character in Gone Girl a little bit, like the seemingly put together mom with like a bit of a dark side.
She just didn't seem like that likable to me as the movie went on. Like she just had all these things that I was just like, besides sex, like I don't know what connection they have, if they have any at all.
Wealth, maybe.
Him? Or
Yeah.
because she gave up her job.
I mean, he was wealthy. Yeah, you're right.
She was a
That's
real
a good
estate.
point. Yeah. I hear you.
I don't know. Yeah, for me, she just became more and more unlikable. And then even like when the fact that she didn't want to leave him, even though she like knew he was cheating, and like I don't know, like she just became more. I didn't feel bad for her at all towards the end. Like I had sympathy for her at the beginning, and then like I was just lost all of it for it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I liked her at the beginning. I lost interest in only knowing that, like, she enjoyed Rachel being in torture. I was like, no, you don't take pleasure in other people's pains. And then, but at the end, I was kind of like, you're kind of, I don't want to say stupid, but it's like, what are you still doing with Tom, knowing that what he just did to you?
Well, that's always the question you ask. If you get with someone who's cheating, you have to know that, like...
I mean, you don't have to know. Like, there have been instances where people have cheated with someone and they end up with that person for the rest of their life, but...
There are instances.
But there is that question in your head where, are they going to do it again? Because you were the person that was the person they were cheating on.
Yeah. It was more so, I was more frustrated with her at the end. Like, why are you still with Tom now, knowing that he's been cheating on you this whole time? It's like, are you that blind in love to stay with him?
Yeah. Maybe.
She didn't even seem to be in love with him, though.
I
she
think
just seemed to be in love with the idea of everything, like the idea of
like
the whole family.
That's exactly
loyal
what it is.
more.
She was
That
someone
loyal.
who so valued family values and having a home and having a kid and having a perfect cookie cutter family that she would do everything she could to try to at least maintain the illusion of that. I think.
having the idea that she was able to have with him what Rachel was never able to have with him, like,
Yeah.
just made me feel worse for Rachel.
That was kind of gross. Yeah.
Having a child
And
But
like
Rebecca
having a child,
Ferguson.
not even just having a child, like it. I mean, I don't know how long of time span had passed between the divorce and them now, but like it seemed like right away they had a kid, which was just fire to the fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, more salt to that wound. Let's talk about Justin Theroux. Obviously big in The Leftovers, and he plays Tom, the antagonist of the film, the one who actually kills Megan. What did you think of his performance throughout beginning, middle, end, how he carried his character?
I think he did a really great job of keeping us in the dark as to who he really was. Like, there was little, like, now looking back on it, I can, like, think of, like, little things he did or little instances where I'm like, oh, that's because he was this person. But I didn't guess it at all when watching it the first time around.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he was good. Yeah, I know that's not much.
It was, like, just good.
I don't feel like there's a ton of specific details I can point to because I've kind of seen this character before in a lot of these types of marital infidelity thrillers.
Yeah, but he kind of took me by surprise when he, like, went so far as to, like, pour her a drink and then throw it in her face. Like, I really started to hate. I was like, oh god, just get him.
Like,
Yeah, he was vicious for sure.
What?
It was a very dramatic turn. Yeah, he did a good job portraying two different Toms.
Like, he was not just like mentally abusive; he was like physically abusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just not a good guy, which was really upsetting because at first I did like him. Like, I actually felt bad for him. I was like, oh, because of the twisted gaslighted memories.
And because you're thinking, like, oh, he's, like, feels bad about what he did to Rachel. Like, even though she's still calling, he's still, like, telling her, like, no, don't worry about it. Like,
right.
you know.
Yeah, like, and I felt bad for him, and I was like, no, he's a jerk. This dude has to go. But the interesting thing about Justin Theroux, he actually replaced Chris Evans due to, where Chris had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts of this character. And Theroux just went off the source material for the book for the film. And the cool thing is, actually, I've read in interviews that, yes, because Tom is such a dark character, he was actually a really nice guy on set. He's always what they said, a ray of sunshine.
Oh, good.
On set, I was like, good for being such a dark character.
Yeah, good. You're not like your character.
Yes, it's good that you're actually the opposite in real life. So I like him for that. Let's talk about Luke Evans, who plays Scott. He's big in the Hobbit trilogy, and he's going to be in Beauty and the Beast. I'm really excited. It's going to be Gaston in that, so I'm really excited. What do you think about that Scott-Rachel relationship and how Luke played into this, pretty much?
Like I said, like, for his character, it was really hard for me to... that was the one character I felt like I didn't get to know at all. Mm-hmm. Like, we had these, like, people saying that he was... or I guess it was... Megan saying he was abusive in the office, but we never, like, see that. We never see his side of it or anything. So I'm like, and then we see a little bit of it when he gets really mad at Rachel, but it's like I'm trying to, like, connect with this character, but I don't feel like I know him.
See, I feel like he sort of had, like, a blue-collar element to him, like a little maybe, like, big heart, but doesn't always know how to use it the right way. But I kind of found him to be likable, even in the moments when we did learn some of the dark sides of his personality. And maybe that owes to Luke Evans' performance. I haven't seen too much of him, but...
Yeah, I think we might have learned a little bit more about him had they kept those sex scenes in, not just for gratuitous matters, but maybe just to see, like, how well he is connected with Rachel.
Right.
Because, like, I agree with you, Briana. I don't really remember much of his character other than the fact that he was married to Megan. I was like, okay, so Megan's also a cheater who was cheating on him.
Right.
With multiple people.
With multiple people. So I was like, how bad of a guy is he for her to cheat
and that's, like, the thing. It's like there's always two sides to a story.
Yeah.
So we need, like... I felt like I was missing half of the story here.
I did feel bad for Scott because he seemed like the one person who was completely out of the know and more people knew. But it was interesting how Rachel was trying to tell him all this information, even though she didn't really know much on Megan. But I'm like, don't listen to Rachel because she doesn't know.
Right.
And it was almost really sad that, like, this person that he's never met comes in and says, oh, his friend's your wife, and he just believes it, which means, like, him and his wife must not have seen each other, talk to each other, like, ever.
Right.
For
That's a good point.
He's like, oh, well, I didn't think she had that many friends. No, but I guess she does have one.
I guess she does. Like, he's really not in the know of anything. Let's talk about Allison Janney. We love her.
Who doesn't love Allison Janney?
If you don't love Allison Janney, I don't know who you are.
Get out.
Right, you're not human.
Yeah.
But her as Detective Riley, I liked her because she was actually, I don't want to say scary, but intimidating.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she played the part in the way that you were like, get off her back.
Yeah.
Okay? Right?
I just feel like there's an element of when she shows up, you're like, there's Allison Janney. I like this movie. Like, yeah, I thought she was good. And, like, you can tell probably it was the kind of thing where she's in 4 or 5 scenes, so they probably could get her for a week, shoot what they need with her, and then let her go. Yeah. Which is kind of she does a lot of these in movies especially, like, fun kind of maybe 6th on the cast list parts. Like that was Miss Peregrine's as well.
Yeah.
She played a therapist.
Therapist.
Yeah. It's the same. Oh, I guess she was a police officer in this, but I feel like the kind of quirky, charactery investigator. She's like great for that role.
She did the thing like, because I always end up hating investigators when I watch movies, and she played it right. Because like I just don't like when they like won't let stuff go, and when I feel like they're like trying to entrap the people, it gets on my nerves. I'm like, stop it.
Right.
So I felt like she did a really good job because she made me feel that.
Yeah.
Well, she did, because there was that moment when they were in the bathroom with Detective Riley and Rachel, and she's like literally cornering her and like trying to get the information. I'm like, oh, okay. And she's also very tall, so like
Yeah, she's
she has
already
that physical
intimidating.
And
security
he shot
over
her
there.
tall too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like she just looked intimidating. And
I did
felt bad
love-
for Rachel for constantly not lying but admitting the truth.
Yeah, and I really liked that they did choose a woman here because it was kind of fun to see a female and female investigator criminal.
Especially when
dynamic.
we already have so many men in this that are like trying to like steer the ship.
Yeah,
Like it was nice seeing like a woman like taking charge, kind of.
definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about Lisa Kudrow, who was a surprising appearance in this film, but she actually played a bigger role than what she was in the book.
It's just funny. Every time I hear her voice, like all I think in my head is Phoebe.
I know.
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah, I was like, oh, Phoebe's come a long way. Good for her.
Yeah.
Homeless one day, now she's running a business.
Yeah, but Lisa Kudrow, who plays Martha, funny thing about this character, the character was actually called Monica. And we had the character of Rachel, so we have Monica and Rachel. You can't have those two in the same room again. So when they were filming the train scenes, a lot of people are over the PA. They were like, okay, and Monica is coming, and now Rachel will enter the scene. People were like legit freaking out because they thought it was like a friends reunion. And they're like, oh no, we gotta like keep everybody calm and change her character so it wouldn't cause an uproar during
Now
filming.
she's Martha.
Well,
And
there's
now
a
it's
whole
Martha.
thing too where she like had a smelly cat and like it factored into the plot, but they had to get rid of it just because. Just kidding, you guys.
Stop it.
Yes, but yes, it was actually Talia Tate who came up with the whole storytelling device of Martha's character and realized that this is quoted from her that so I realized I had to figure out someone to tell Rachel that her memory was wrong. So I went back to the book and Paula's writing, and she said that Rachel very quickly mentioned how Tom used to tell her she embarrassed him at the work parties. So from that, I created Lisa's character, who was the boss's wife, to gaslight not only Rachel, but the audience. You think Lisa was this Upper East Side bitch. In reality, she wasn't. She was just a plucked line out of Paula's novel and turned it into a character.
And I love that he incorporated her character into it, because that's one of my favorite parts about the film is her telling her that.
Yeah.
And us thinking, and us like just believing like, oh yeah, he's some rich guy, so he has a nice job, so the boss of his wife would be rich and snobby and like look down on this girl making deviled eggs for a party. And in real life, like she was just like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Like he was the dick. Like
Right.
you're fine.
That was a
Yeah.
good moment.
And then, the specific lines, like, we all felt so bad for you
Right.
because he's such a bad guy. I was like,
Like he got fired because
"Oh."
he was sleeping with everyone in the office.
Exactly. And I was like, I think that was probably one of the key moments. I was like, okay, Tom's a jerk. He's probably the one who did it. Yeah, I liked it. And for like the 2 moments she was on screen, she played a big role.
Mm-hmm.
Like, good for her.
I just like also that she's this like Upper East Side rich woman, but she's still taking the train.
Yeah.
Like I liked that thing too about her.
It's humbling. Let's talk about the production and cinematography. Charlotte Bruce Christensen, who's actually worked on other films such as Far from the Madding Crowd and Fences, which have also been adapted into films.
Yeah, Fences was a play. That's actually coming out. August
coming out,
Wilson's
yeah.
like probably his most famous play, and then Far from the Madding Crown's like a Thomas Hardy novel from like the 19th century. But
Did
it
you
seems
see
like
those
she
films?
works on. Well, I've seen Far from the Madding Crown. Fences isn't out yet, but I think she must have an eye for production design because like it's interesting that all of her most recent projects are literary adaptations. It's an interesting.
Well, it's funny because at the moment I'm literally reading Far from the Maddening Crowd.
Oh, nice.
So now I'll go
It's a
see her
great
film and see
story.
what she did with that, and then
Yeah.
I'll read this book and be like, okay, this is what she's done with 2 stories all I've read and seen now.
Yeah.
No, Far from the Madding Crowd is a great story and I highly suggest it for people who haven't read the book or watched the films. That's another story about strong women rolling up their sleeves and getting shit done.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Literally.
much it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it just like this film, but the principal photography started on November 4th of 2015 in New York and wrapped up beginning of this year, January of 2016. And apparently, Charlotte likes to use a lot of close-ups, and especially on Emily Blunt's face. But she says, but that's sort of Charlotte's way. I think her way of shooting brings us as close in as possible to those fragile moments, and you get in there and you see the grit and dirt and the physical of the emotional part, and that's something that I like, that Emily definitely displays. Yeah, I agree. I think there wasn't really a lot of technical crazy shots and not a lot of VFX, obviously, but the vastness of the different locations, like from the train to the houses, and just how everything looks so suburban and dreary. There was really no hope anywhere.
Yeah.
The movie in general, we can talk about, that's more of a director's choice. So let's keep talking about cinematography. I thought, it was beautifully shot. I liked the production design. I liked the way it looked. Even the scenes in the forest, I thought were like well lit, and I guess a lot of it was probably on location, but it looked really good, I thought.
Yeah, and they actually built a train rig, a train set that they put on a rig, and they hired a bunch of extras to fill the train. And they moved it around and like to give the assimilation that they're moving on a train.
Moving on a train.
Oh, nice.
Oh wow, they actually built a train for those scenes. Pretty cool. And Jeff, you mentioned it in the directing, but let's talk about Tate Taylor, known for The Help, Getting Up, and his short film Chicken Party, which really started his career. But he actually, because of his connections with DreamWorks on The Help, he knew Holly Barrio, who's the one of the directors of DreamWorks, and she convinced him to read the book, and then after he did, he fell in love with the story and called her back, be like, yep, I'm on board, and that's pretty much how it all started.
Great.
Yeah, but and then I mentioned it before, met Emily and Paula in London, but the whole death, what did you think of how they directed the whole death scene?
Well, it's funny because I was just reading your quote right here that he gave about it being like this intimate moment. And I got the intimacy between him and Rachel, but not between him and Anna. And I don't know if he meant that for him and Anna, too, to have an intimacy.
Oh, no, I didn't see it. I saw that was more just vicious.
Yeah, because, like, I thought, because in my head, like, reading this, I would think, like, okay, like, that's their intimacy, and then Anna letting go of him, finally. Mm-hmm. But with her just turning the corkscrew, that was one of the moments I was like, what?
Yeah, that was...
What is she doing? Like,
I could
like,
hardly watch.
It was almost, like, out of character for her to, like, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see her going up and twisting that thing into his neck.
Let's make sure he's really dead.
I like that, though. I thought it was cathartic because she's kind of been under his spell for so long, and then she has this moment to be like, yeah, dude, like, F you. Like, you're done. I think this is interesting, and I think we would be remiss not to talk about the comparisons with Gone Girl because there's a lot of similarities, and I think the directing is part of the thing that I think I would have liked to have seen more in this movie. Maybe style, because like I feel like the reason I loved Gone Girl so much was because it was just had this sense of like mischievous fun, and like I thought there was a sense of like kind of brooding kind of fun to it a little bit, and I think it would have been like interesting to see something a little more like twisted and directed bigger. I think I would have liked
Gone Girl, they were able to portray that too because it was completely two separate stories. We start off with one person and their story and them trying to figure this out, and then like going over and seeing the opposite person's story and how that played out. So they were able, I think, to portray more of that.
Right.
Whereas we don't have his side. We're not looking in from his eyes ever.
Until the end, I guess.
Not even really then, though. Like, we just see flashbacks. But
yeah. I feel like they're calling this a thriller, and to me, I think in a thriller, I want to have moments of, and there were exciting moments, but I feel like if you're directing an exciting movie and there's no humor, it's more of a horror movie, and if you're directing an exciting movie and there's a sense of fun, that's when I call it a thriller.
This was more of a suspense thriller.
Yeah, you're right. A dramatic
mystery thriller.
A dramatic. It's almost more like a drama, like a domestic drama with exciting elements. I don't know. I just think because so many people have brought up the comparisons to Gone Girl, I thought we'd be remiss not to mention them on this podcast. And I feel like the things that Gone Girl got so right, to me, revealed some of the shortcomings in this movie a little bit, personally.
Yeah.
But
I mean, a lot of movies and television shows has that storytelling aspect of you see one person's side of a story and then you see the other.
Right.
I mean, it's not just Gone Girl, but like the disappearance of Eleni Rigby did the same thing. So it's not something that's new to us. I think it was really well done. And you mentioned it before we went live, but you would have liked if it was in David Fincher's style.
a little bit, personally, yeah.
I think that would have been good.
Yeah.
Because like he did great on Social Network, and I think the tone would have definitely been up David Fincher's alley as well.
It could have, and I think that's what surprised me. Is like The Help and Get On Up are movies with kind of a sense of joy a little bit, and like you can't really direct joy into this movie.
I mean, it's also what you're taking with what the book had. I mean, The Help has a lot of comedy written into the book.
Yeah, it's like there was a lot of comedic characters going through situations.
I mean, we had comedy. We had like little pieces, like when she's not. I mean, I guess it's not really that funny when you think about it. The fact that she's a drunk, but when she's like not drinking and he gives her the beer and she's like, "Oh no, okay."
Right.
Yeah.
That was the one moment in the screening I went to that people laughed. But even that, I was like, I don't know. I just
was that not enough humor and comedy that balance for you?
Maybe I'm being too critical. I just love to laugh a little bit when I go to a movie, and I found this movie to be just. I think there could have been a bit more relief for us, I just think it's a nice in for our characters to like them more. Like, what if Megan Hipwell had kind of like a sarcastic sense of humor? We might have liked her a little more. For us saying we're having trouble connecting her because she's so numb and dull, maybe if she had a sass or an edge, we would have been like, even if she was still kind of cold, we might have liked her a little more. I don't know. But that's my takeaway that would prevent me from giving this movie like an A+, personally.
That there wasn't enough levity in this movie.
Levity's a great word, Marissa. Yeah, I would have been looking for a little more of that, I think.
Okay. See, I mean, I can understand that theory. When I went into this film, I wasn't expecting to laugh.
Right.
When every time I did laugh, I was like, oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm not going into it expecting a comedy.
Fair.
I'm going into it expecting a thriller mystery.
Yeah. True.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Part of it, too, for me was, like, because you had seen the movie before me and you had actually written a review on it. And I think that I kind of went in with lower expectations, and maybe that's part of the reason also that I kind of liked it a little more.
Yeah. My review, I acknowledged the performances. I loved it. You can read it on BlackHollywoodLive.com, our sister network. But yeah, tone was my biggest issue with this movie. Yeah. I just found it to be a bit somber, too somber for me.
Like
Dour.
you wanted
Dour was the word I used. Yeah.
It would have been nice at the end maybe to like bring up the tone a little bit, make it a little more bright, like even like.
I think at the end it did, because when we saw her, like she looks cleaner. She's cleaned up her act. She's sitting on the other side of the train now. Like it did look brighter.
Yeah, but even the outside, like I think it's still like the outside kind of still looked similar to the movie for me. And if it had been like a really bright sunny day, as where the entire film was in clouds, like would have been a cool.
Okay.
Effect.
Here's an example. You're a big SVU fan, aren't you? Do you guys watch Law and Order SVU?
I don't.
You've seen it. Well, like there's elements of similarities, like murder and marital infidelity, and sometimes this show or the movie kind of reminded me of like a long SVU. But there's always Ice-T to just be like a little funny. Like maybe Allison Janney's character could have been a little more funny. Allison Janney or
Laura Prepon.
Or Laura Preppon's character, Prepon. Like even one character who just doesn't take everything as seriously as the rest of the characters, I would have maybe enjoyed. But
yeah, I can see your point in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand that, but I think that also where our lack of knowledge of not reading the book, maybe there was a character that was
true.
The comic relief, quote unquote, and we just didn't see it.
Yeah, good point.
But other than that, let's move on to the makeup and wardrobe. Jeff, you actually found some interesting things about it. How about you talk about it?
Sure, yeah. Emily Blunt, to portray the alcoholic, they actually did use a lot of practical makeup to convey what was going on. So I was reading, for Emily Blunt, prosthetic people created molds that clipped onto her teeth to make her face seem puffy, which is really interesting. Because I think people were worried that Emily Blunt was too beautiful to portray but they did a great job, because the other thing they did was they used gray eyeshadow under her eyes to bring out the circles, and they brushed spider veins on her face. And this is the most interesting to me. We see different levels of her drunkenness as the character, and depending on how drunk she was in different moments, they had 3 colored contact lenses, pink, red, and yellow, to represent either that she was tipsy, drunk, or hungover. So,
you know what I hate about that?
What?
That she was still beautiful.
You're like, they took every effort they could to make her look like a messed up alcoholic, and she still was pretty in the film.
Like, she still looks better than me waking up in the morning. That's not fair.
Don't
it's
say
not
that.
fair. Like,
That's funny, though.
They did that a lot in other actresses, too. Like Z for Zachariah. Have you guys ever seen that
She
film?
didn't. I heard it was great.
I didn't see that.
Oh, it was great. For Margot Robbie, they actually put makeup on her to look like more natural beauty.
Right.
Like, they kind of, not to sound terrible, but like they tried to ugly her up.
Yeah.
Just to make her look like a normal
It's
human
like, just
being.
cast a normal human being. Like, come on.
I'm
The
like,
Office did.
That's,
Yeah, it's
you know,
true.
that's not cool.
There was an element, I thought occasionally Emily Blunt kind of looked like Kristen Wiig in this. Did you guys ever see that? There's like 2 moments on the train where she looked like Kristen Wiig and the Skeleton Twins to me.
No.
I don't make that connection.
Fair enough.
Long brown
Yeah.
hair.
Anyone,
I
if
did
you
not
saw
see
it,
that.
if you in the comments and you saw it, let me know.
Yeah, let's moving on to editing, which I found pretty interesting, by Andrew Buckland and Michael McCusker, who's actually he's worked on Walk the Line, Through 10 to Yuma, Australia, a lot of big movies, so he's definitely experienced. But the cool thing is they finished filming in January 2006, and he already had one version of this film cut 2 weeks later, which super,
Wow.
super fast turnaround. And during this, obviously, cutting films goes through several different processes and whatnot, and he put a lot of temp scores into it just to get the tone of the film. And and this is where we also learned that there were 2 scripted love scenes that were cut out too. But the temp scores, and this kind of transitions us to sound as well, also composed by Danny Elfman. He, on the flip side, actually hates temp scores. And he says this is the bane of his existence.
Funny.
So we have the editor who put the temp score in, and then we have the composer who's like, I hate this is terrible. Working on the same film. Obviously, Danny Elfman, super talented and a bunch of accolades. I mean, just going on his IMDb, he's done just about everything.
I mean, and if you've ever seen anything with Tim Burton, I mean, that's Danny Elfman, pretty much.
Right.
That's what kind of surprised me, though, is I feel like Danny Elfman's always the
Also
guy.
Desperate Housewives.
Yeah, Desperate Housewives, Pushing Daisies. Like, I feel like he's often the guy you hire to do like a whimsical fantasy score. So I was interested in him doing it was a great score. I don't know if I'd seen this work from him particularly, up until now.
It was definitely different. Like, I mean, with Tim Burton, you get a lot of the whimsy, but mixed with somber.
Yeah.
There was the musical tone in it kind of reminded me of some of the score of Corpse Bride, in a way.
I can see that.
Yeah, the cool thing about Danny for this film, he put in a lot of bass-heavy, rhythmic motor-using objects, detuned mandolins, and screaming electric guitars for a lot of the scores. And some of them were actually run backwards, so it gives that disoriented type of feeling
Cool.
as well. It's like, oh, wow, who would think to play your song backwards and gives it a different feeling, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, and the soundtrack is available on Amazon, so go check it out and go listening to it. It's pretty creepy thriller.
Wow, there's a lot.
It's
Like,
creepy.
watching a movie, it's sometimes hard for me at least, when there's no lyrics, to differentiate when music changes unless it's really drastic. So I didn't even realize how many different
Different
titles.
I know.
scores. Yeah, I mean, he's just freaking talented, so I'm glad that he composed this film, because it felt dark throughout the whole movie. There really
Certainly.
wasn't a happy, light moment, really, other than the beer scene.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the promotion of this film. Finished at number 1 for the Paula adaptation, and The Girl on the Train just came a bit shy of expectations with the estimated $24.7 million from 344 theaters. But Jeff, what did you think about the promotion for this film?
I thought it was well promoted. I take Highland sometimes on the way back from work, and there's that big poster on the corner right by Hollywood and Highland. But it's tough because sometimes I feel like when I answer this question in Anatomy, if you live in LA, you see everything being promoted heavily.
Yeah.
So I sometimes wonder like if this movie got as much rollout in like the Midwest.
See,
but
I'm like opposite of you completely, because I had no idea that this was even being made into a film
Really?
until you wrote your review.
oh wow, no idea, huh?
Really? Wow. See, I knew about it because coincidentally, I was in the Midwest when I first heard about the Girl on Train book, because my mom's a big reader. Shout out to my mom. She's a big reader, and she knew about this book before I did.
Nice.
And then it wasn't until later, until I came back to LA, that I found out that they were adapting the book into a film.
Well, I do like, though it is an adaptation, I always welcome non-franchise pictures, just because so many of the movies we get are like a part of these universes, or like they, it's the 5th part 2 of the Hunger Games.
Right. We're making 5.
I know.
5 what's it called movies? The Fantastic Beasts.
And so it's nice. It's nice to just get a standalone narrative. So like I always applaud a studio, even though it is based on source material, who takes that risk. And I want to see it do well, because I wish Hollywood made more of these movies. Like Money Monster was one of my favorites of this year, and do it well. Yeah. So for the most part,
you want to see movies where there is no sequel.
I know.
Basically,
you just go and you watch the movie. The performances were great, and it's a clean movie, and you leave and you go home.
Well, the last few anatomies I've done have been novels adapted to movies.
You're right.
Miss Peregrine.
Yep.
I did The Light Between Oceans.
Yeah.
Doing this one. Like, I've been reading a lot, you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I have to go read this one. But the box office is actually doing pretty well.
It was number 1, wasn't it?
It was number 1. It's made worldwide like 47, 48 million. It's probably around 50 million now. But the opening weekend of 24.5 million. So yeah, ranked number 1. It's doing really well. It only had a $45 million budget, so it's already made its money back. And that's not even in DVD sales. That's just in theater tickets, and of course, given inflation. But it's a successful movie despite the lower kind of ratings.
Well, I never ever go off anything with Rotten Tomatoes.
I think
because for me,
44 is low.
Yeah, for me, a lot of films I love, Rotten Tomatoes tends to score really low.
Yeah.
And so I just don't ever believe anything that I read off that. If I see having a bad score, I'll still go to the theater and see it. Like, I'm not going to judge if I should see it based off Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I usually will just kind of use my instincts, unless it's like a really low score. But then sometimes I'm curious as to why critics think it's so bad, so I'll still go just to, yeah.
I think 44 is super low.
Yeah, I think that was too low. I mean, I wouldn't give it like a 90 to 100. I would probably give it maybe like a 78, 82.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say like high 70s, low 80s.
It's funny. I feel like I've been critical of my review today, but I actually did give it a 7 out of 10 when I reviewed it. So I think I liked it more than I'm presenting during this.
It snuck into your mind.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And there was moments I was like really excited about in the movie. So.
Yeah. But overall, this was, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I probably will buy it.
Great.
On DVD. Would you?
I'm not much of like a DVD owner.
Or like, would you watch this film again?
I would watch it.
Is it rewatchable?
See, I don't know if I actually would.
It is. I think it's rewatchable because I think that there's little things that they put in throughout it that once you know the ending, when you rewatch it, you'll notice. Mm-hmm. So I think it would be fun to rewatch it knowing what the ending is.
All the little
It also made me
signposts.
want to go buy the book and make me want to read the book. So whenever a film does that, I think it's done its job.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, I think for me, because it kind of bummed me out, I might not be super excited to watch it again, but I don't want to take away from the movie.
I also like really like not super depressing, but I like a lot of darker stuff and depressing
for sure.
stuff.
One really quick question. Do you think that Emily Blunt is enough of a star to carry a box office? Like, it's interesting. I'm surprised. I mean, she's huge.
Yeah.
But you do wonder.
This is her first major film that she's the main lead on.
Besides Sicario, I guess.
Yeah, but like even we did the Anatomy of a movie of that, and I remember clearly saying, I was like, yes, Emily is one of the headliners, but she's not the main character in the film.
You're right. She doesn't anchor the movie.
I think that she was fine with anchoring this movie. I think that she's a great actress. I think she has great instincts as to what to do, and she doesn't take anything too far. Devil Wears Prada, she was over the top, but she was supposed to be.
Right. She's so good in that movie, too.
Yeah, I definitely think Emily Blunt has built the star power to carry this film. Yeah. And I think her performance definitely does carry it.
I agree. And I think this will be a big movie for her. Like, I think she's A-list now.
Oh, yeah, she definitely
I think she's been A-list.
Has she?
Yeah, she's been A-list.
In my mind, she's been A-list for a long time.
Married to Jill Halpert. How could you not?
I mean, she's very talented. She's amazing. And if Paula does another kind of book like this, I'll go read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for tuning in and listening to Girl on Train Dissection. In the meantime, where can everyone keep following you?
You guys can follow me, Jeffrey C. Graham, at Jeffrey C. Graham on Twitter. If you're into our sister network AfterBuzz and you watch a lot of TV, I'm currently covering Atlanta on FX and The Good Place on NBC, which both wrap fairly soon. So both great shows. I'd encourage you to tune into both of them and the after show.
Putting a timestamp on our show.
I know. Shame on me. I apologize if I.
You can find me at bphipps14, and also if you're a huge movie fan and love musical movies, tomorrow on Popcorn Talk we're going to be discussing Little Shop of Horrors, so that should be fun.
Awesome. And you can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV. You can follow all of us here on the Popcorn Talk Network at The Popcorn Talk. And we're dissecting films all year long. We have all the Oscar movies coming out. It's Oscar season. Award seasons. So, and we've covered a lot of Anatomy of a Movies with Emily Blunt. Go check out Sicario. Go check out Into the Woods. Go check out Z for Zachariah. I think we mentioned a lot of those films. And yeah, we've covered them. Good chances we've covered them. Thank you everyone for tuning in for this particular dissection. Don't forget you can download the rundown in the description below and follow along with our research, and we will see you next time.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.